Welcome to HeyScan. I'm your host, Bob Scanlan. Tonight, the Padres extend their winning streak to 7 games after a 10-4 victory over the Cincinnati Reds. A lot of emails came in this evening, so we're going to try to answer a few of them for you right now. Let's start off with Yoli. Hey, Bob, what is the difference between a breaking ball and a curveball? Also, why isn't there any knuckleball pitchers in Major League Baseball? Appreciate your response. Best regards. Well, actually, Yoli, there is no difference between a breaking ball and a curveball. A curveball is a breaking ball. A breaking ball is a general term for any pitch that breaks, a la curveballs, sliders, split fingers will sometimes be put in the category of breaking balls. Changeups, however, are a different creature. Changeups are just considered off-speed pitches. Off-speed pitches can include breaking pitches. So off-speed includes anything that's not a fastball. Breaking ball includes curveballs, sliders, split fingers. And the last part of your question, knuckleballs, there's actually a couple of guys that are still throwing knuckleballs in the major leagues. Charlie Hager, for example, is pitching for the Dodgers. In fact, I think he might have been starting this evening. So there's still some guys in the big leagues that do throw knuckleballs, but it's very uncommon. Most knuckleball pitchers are failed regular style pitchers. They're guys that just weren't going to make it with normal stuff, and a pitching coach says, hey, you know what, ever try a knuckleball? It's the only way that you're going to survive. That's the way most knuckleballers come to be. So a couple still out there, and we'll see how Charlie Hager does. Thanks, Yoli. Next, Darren. Joe Thatcher looked great, but do you think Buddy should have let Gallagher try to finish off the game? Yes, he was struggling, but he only needed one more out. You know what, Darren? Absolutely not. Sean Gallagher really struggled in this ball game tonight. He walked a batter, he hit a batter, he was allowing runs to score, and really, when you have a situation where you're in the lead of a ball game like that, you're in command of the game the entire time, and you have a relief pitcher that's struggling out there, it can really demoralize the entire ball club and take away all that momentum that you had built up over the previous 8 innings. So I think Buddy Black was more than generous in giving Sean Gallagher an opportunity to get out of that baseball game on his own. You know what? It doesn't matter if there's 1 out, or 2 outs or 3 outs left to be recorded. He needed to put an end to that inning and leave a good taste in the mouth of his ball club about the game that they played, and I thought he did the right thing by bringing in Joe Thatcher. Nice to see Joe Thatcher come in and strike out his first batter of the season, so I think Buddy handled that one absolutely appropriately. Next we have, doesn't say who it is, R. Smith it looks like. Tell us a little bit about the genius of Bud's choices and the way he decided to put the lineup together. I'm still a neophyte, but clearly recognize that manager was a much part of the win today as the boys on the field. You know, that's a great point, and Buddy Black did put together a left-handed dominant lineup tonight. 6 left-handed bats in this lineup to go against Bronson Arroyo. Arroyo, known as an off-speed pitcher, has the big slow curveball, and traditionally, when you look at the numbers, left-hand batters have always hit much better against Bronson Arroyo than right-hand batters. If you just take last year, for example, right-handers hit only 184 against him versus left-handers who hit closer to 240. So there's a little bit of a statistical reason why you would do that, but also I think it's just the style of hitting. When you've got a guy that's out there that's throwing a lot of off-speed pitches, a lot of slow stuff, I thought it was really interesting that he put Matt Stairs in the lineup tonight, a veteran guy that knows how to stay back on pitches like that, might not be as fooled, and sure enough, Stairs came through with the double and helped out the rally today. So nice job of Buddy Black playing the percentages and putting mostly left-handed lineup in there, but taking a little bit of roll of the dice, putting Matt Stairs out there, but it paid off for him. Nice job of Buddy putting this lineup together. Hyun Yo Ho wants to know, I really like watching Kevin Correa on the mound ever since mid-June last year. I know this season is still young, but do you see him as a number 1 or number 2 starter instead? Actually, Hyun, I got to be honest with you. After opening day, after the first week of the season, whether you were the opening day pitcher, the second day pitcher, the 5th guy to pitch in the rotation, it absolutely doesn't matter. Once the season starts, there are no 1, 2, 3, 4s, and 5s. Your number 1 starter is the guy that's throwing the ball the best. There's so many off days, there's so many rainouts, there's so many other things that go on that it becomes very rare where you actually match up your number 1 pitchers. A lot of times they'll have a number 5 facing a number 2, a quote-unquote number 4 facing a number 1. It really doesn't matter. Once the season starts, you get slotted as to how you're pitching. If you're throwing the ball well, you are the number 1 guy. And Kevin Correa has certainly done a nice job. I thought it was interesting that the Padres didn't seem to want to put a whole lot of pressure on Kevin at the start of the season, despite he had a great season last year. They didn't want to give him the opening day nod. Chris Young would have been another excellent choice. They opted to go with John Garland, but I don't think that takes anything away from what Kevin Correa did last year or the respect that this coaching staff has for the way that he's pitched. He's been very consistent, and hey, you know what? If he turns out to be the most consistent guy, you may be looking at him as the ace by the end of the season. Derek wants to know, hey, Scan, I want to ask your opinion on why you think the Padres always have Bronson Arroyo's number when it comes to hitting. Is his repertoire of pitches and change of speed something, or is it something else? I'm not asking just about Great American Ballpark, but because it seems like his numbers have always been good against Bronson Arroyo. You know, it's kind of interesting looking at Arroyo's numbers. I think he had a 4-6 record and a 3.84 lifetime against Bronson Arroyo. The Padres did against him. So it's not been completely lopsided. A 3.84 is certainly not a bad earned run average lifetime to have against a ball club. But it is interesting because there's certain teams that a pitcher will pitch against where he just feels confident all the time pitching against that club. Sometimes it's the way that club's put together. Sometimes it's the ballparks. You just feel comfortable on the mound of that opposing ballpark as well as your home field. A lot of times it'll be just a comfort zone. Hey, you've had success against that team before and you feel confident that you can beat them again. The opposite thing can happen as well. And I think sometimes either players mentally have a couple of bad outings against one club and for the rest of their career they have a mental block against that team. But also sometimes a team will figure out a way to defeat a certain pitcher. They may come up with some little trick in their scouting report. Hey, this guy can only throw his fastball to one side of the plate. Hey, this guy only throws his curveball to right-handed batters when he's ahead in the count. He won't throw it to left-handers. Hey, he's always going to throw his changeup if he gets to a 1-0 count or an even count, especially late in the ball game. Little things like that might be one little trick that one player knows. He passes it on to the rest of his teammates. They carry that tradition on, and you just struggle against that team no matter what. And there's other teams that just never seem to figure out. So I don't think there's any scientific way of calculating all that, but I know that some of it's emotional and mental confidence. But a lot of it also, I think, is, hey, if there's a certain guy that has figured you out and he can share it with his teammates and they get a good game plan against you, then the responsibility is on you as a pitcher to try to change things up. Joe wants to know, hey, now the Padres are going strong and hopefully will continue to be in first place and stay in contention. Add to that both the White Sox and the Red Sox are struggling. Can you see where this is going? Would it be safe to say that Adrian stays a Padre throughout the year? Joe, I wish I could say that at this point, only a few weeks into the season, that the die has been cast and Adrian was going to be a Padre for the rest of the season, but I don't think that that's a realistic thing to say at this point. Hey, Padres are playing great baseball right now. They could go on a tailspin tomorrow and lose their next 10 games, and all of a sudden the picture is entirely different. Likewise, the Red Sox could go on an amazing hot streak and feel like, you know what, we're back in this race. We need that bat. That's the one thing we're missing. I don't think a whole lot's changed in terms of the Padres' ability or non-ability to pay Adrian Gonzalez over a long-term contract. That's something that's going to have to be negotiated between Adrian, his agent, and the Padres. If the Padres feel that under no circumstances are they going to realistically be able to re-sign Adrian, then it really doesn't matter how this team is doing. They may hang on to him longer, but if they know that the future is not going to involve Adrian Gonzalez, at some point they're going to have to move him. And even if the Red Sox and the White Sox feel like they're out of contention, there's going to be other teams that will find themselves in contention that still might be interested. So I don't think this early in the season that any decisions have been made or anything has really changed in terms of the leverage of that situation and what direction it may go in. Hey, obviously we hope the Padres keep winning. They have reason to keep Adrian around as long as they possibly can, and who knows, maybe they can find a way to work something out and we'll get a chance to enjoy Adrian here for many years to come. Excuse me, last question tonight, Dave. Hey, Scan, since this is basically the same roster that put up one of the best records in baseball in the second half of last season, why were the predictions to be so bad this year? Aaron Boone most recently on ESPN really badmouthed the ball club. We're obviously playing well. How could nobody recognize the awesomeness of this ball club at this point? You know, that's a great question, Dave. I think a lot of it has to do with unfamiliarity of this club. If you don't get a chance to see this ball team, and a lot of people, quite frankly, didn't pay a lot of attention to this ball team last year because they were out of contention. They didn't get a chance to see the things that this team did to win baseball games last year. They didn't get a chance to see a more athletic, younger team take the field and be successful here in Petco Park. They didn't get a chance to see Kevin Correa pitch as well as he did towards the end of last season, or Clayton Richard, the way he continued to grow, Matt Latos, the way he threw the ball. They didn't get a chance to see this bullpen, how much it changed from the beginning of the season to the end of the season to become one of the strongest and most consistent bullpens in baseball, which they're showing again this year. There's a lot of things that teams would not get to see. They didn't get a chance to see how this team was able to play really well late in the ball game, not get flustered despite being a young team, not cracking under the pressure of the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings of close ball games. Those are the little things that you only get a chance to see if you're watching a team over an extended period of time.